unless by contrast there was something instanding. You cannot appreciate the convex without the concave. You cannot appreciate the firm without the yielding. And therefore the so-called is to be substantial is to be underlying, to be the support, to be the foundation of the world. And of course, this is the great function of the feminine, to be the substance. And therefore, the feminine is represented by space, which is of course black, that's right. But were it not for black and empty space, there would be no possibility whatsoever of seeing the stars. Stars shine out of space, and astronomers, very high-powered astronomers, are beginning to realize that stars are a function of space. Now that's difficult for our common sense, because we think that space is simply inert nothingness. Then we don't realize that space is completely basic to everything. It's like your consciousness. Nobody can imagine what consciousness is. It's the most elusive, whatever it is, that there is at all. Because it's the background of everything else that we know. Therefore, we don't really know. We pay attention to the things within the field of consciousness, to the outlines, to the objects, to the so-called things that are in the field of vision, the sounds that are in the field of hearing, and so forth. But what it is, that ever it is, that embraces all that, we don't pay much attention to it. We can't even think about it. It's like trying to look at your head. You know, you try to look at your head, and what do you find? You don't even find the black blob in the middle of things. You just don't find anything. And yet that is that out of which you see, just as space is that out of which the stars shine. So there's something very queer about all this. That which put your finger on, that which always escapes you, that which is completely elusive, the blank, seems to be absolutely necessary for there to be anything whatsoever. Now let's take this further. Kali also is the principle of death, because she carries a scimitar in one hand and a severed head in the other. Death. This is tremendously important to think about. We put it off. Death is swept under the carpet in our culture. In the hospital, they try to keep you alive as long as possible in utter desperation. They won't tell you that you're going to die. They, when their relatives have to be informed that it's a hopeless case, they say, don't tell this to the patient. And all the relatives come around with hollow grins and say, well, you'll be all right in about a month, and then we'll go.
Oh, a style of life, an inner style, yes.
It's an inner style, exactly.
Oh, yes, very much so. But I mean, it would, if I was not there for lunch or something, it would make his own lunch very well. And this is rather
You
more
mean he was a
American.
good cook?
Oh, yes, he was very nice cook. He particularly liked to make soup. We had a whole, once he even thought of writing a little book about making soup.
Well, I
How is your own book going on?
I tell you, I have abandoned that for the time being because I felt that writing about gourmet cookery at this moment would be like fiddling while Rome burned.
Well, so what are you doing about
I'm
Rome?
writing a book instead about ethics called The Rules of the Game.
Okay.
And I think that's an extremely important subject for young people.
Oh, yes.
And as you see, in the same way, you could say from a certain point of view that as his life went on, all of his books became more serious, or I would prefer to say sincere, concerned with profound matters.
And this is what you're doing.
But you know, the critics have tended